starting today. We're going to be doing a new project. I want to thank you for joining me again. Essentially what we're going to be doing is making boppers for flint knapping. For a beginner, you're going to want three sizes: 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch. We're going to be using a closed end wrench, which is 3/8, 1/2 inch, and 5/8 to essentially dome the copper pieces. We're going to go ahead and start with the largest one because it's probably going to be the easiest to see. Really put that 5/8 closed end wrench in there. You can use any type of hammer or mallet, but all we're going to do is, let me change the angle here real quick. All right, excellent. So you can use any type of mallet or hammer. All you're going to do is you're going to slowly pound on this and rotate it as you do it. As it creates, you're going to create this dome section here. So I'm going to use essentially just a little bit bigger hammer. Doesn't take much force. Just going to work it around. Keep working it around. I happen to like using a large mallet because it doesn't take a whole lot of strength, because you're building a lot of force just by the mass of the mallet. Mass is kind of our friend on this, so we're going to be adding mass to this once we get it shaped. We're getting pretty close, so you can see it takes no time at all to build this up, to dome this, especially when you're using some really good tools. So let's go ahead and we're just going to take a real quick file, scratch it up, give that lead something to adhere to. We're going to also clean up any oxidation that might have come up on the copper. All right. And then if you want to, you can really get in there and clean it up really good with a piece of sandpaper. It's up to you. Okay. Now, what I want to do here is add just a little bit of flux, and this is just going to help the lead flow and stick to the copper a little bit better, and we don't need a whole lot for that one. Okay. Go ahead and tighten this up, kick on our gas. Now what we really want to make sure we melt the lead, and it will heat up the copper enough to where it'll start to stick. So you really don't have to heat up the copper first. See, it just starts melting right away. It's going to take quite a bit to heat up. Now this happens to be a coil of lead that you can get from any fishing supply store for making your own sinkers and stuff like that. You can get lead from the local tire shop, but more and more weights are being made with synthetics and not as much lead. I happen to really like using the lead versus the other stuff. Because when it hits, it deforms just a little bit, but kind of holds better overall. We want to fill this 3/4 of the way full. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and start to heat that up just a little bit, so it levels out right there. And if you just do the lead ahead of time, it actually goes by, so when we were just melting the lead to begin with, it actually goes by a heck of a whole lot faster than trying to heat up the copper, then heat up the lead. Not quite 3/4. Put that in here. We'll go ahead and we're going to clean any oxidation or any debris or impurities that happen to settle on the top of this off before we actually glue any handle to it. As you can see, this goes really, really quick. When you use tire weights, it doesn't melt nearly as fast and there's a lot more impurities in it. And I don't necessarily want to be breathing all of those impurities. As they degas and burn off. It doesn't have to be perfectly level. But we do want to have it about 3/4 of the way full and just enough lift to actually kind of hold on to a handle. And what I like to do is go ahead and we'll put a screw hole in the side just to help hold it on just a little bit better. Because I have had them bounce off, and after repeated use come undone, and that should be it. So we'll let those harden. Now if you're being impatient, you could slowly dip those into a bucket of water and they would harden up almost instantly as they cool. But we're just going to go ahead and let them cool over time. All right, now we're going to be working on our handles. So we have We're going to have to whittle this down. This is for a 1/2 inch. You can see that it's too thick, so we'll whittle that down. We have a 3/4 inch that fits pretty doggone good as it is. We're going to have to take a little bit off. And then I happen to, for my bigger ones, I happen to like something that's a little natural. Gives us some bark, just something to kind of show that this really is kind of ties into the paleo technology just a little bit, even though we're using copper. I don't know, it's just something I do for the bigger ones. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to cut them all about that length, and then we will whittle them, and then we'll come back to actually fix it or hafting them together. Okay, now when we do our 1 inch, since we're using natural wood, if you want to use natural wood, or all wood's natural, but non-milled wood, you want your cap to make sure that the bark and the Cambrian layer is thicker than the outside. That way you get into the really good hard center wood. Because if you get into that soft outside Cambrian layer, it's not gonna hold very well. So that's what you want to make sure you get. We have our measurement roughly. We'll throw it in here. Okay, so now we got it to size. Now we need to worry about actually being able to fit it to the handle. So we estimate about where that's at. I'm just going to start taking off that bark. Now this happens to be Russian olive. It was introduced into our area, and it's just taken off. So just try to find out what's in your area. Hardwood generally works better than soft. It doesn't deform as much when you start using your boppers. Whenever you're using sharp tools, make sure that you're always going away from yourself. For my young viewers, proper knife handling, or make sure you use safe techniques whenever you're dealing with sharp objects. Even though flint knapping is a ton of fun, it's not worth a trip to the ER room. Okay, we're just going to dry fit this, see how we're doing. All right. Looks pretty good. I will round this edge here just so it's not sharp. Same with these other ones. We don't need to have a kind of a blend in. We'll finish it off to make it kind of look kind of nice, but that's going to give us a nice looking bopper. So we've cleaned up this inside with some steel wool and a wire brush. We've rounded our ends. So we're going to put a little silicone to help glue these in there. We will eventually be putting in a little pin to help hold it, because they are going to be getting a lot of abuse. A little bit of tape to actually hold it while the silicone dries. And then these two right here, they just look too, I don't know, store-bought. I just don't like how they look. So I'm going to go ahead and actually burn them on a torch to kind of give it an aged look. So just go ahead and add a little bit of silicone to each one of these. Okay, starting with the tiny one. the 1/2 inch, give it a little twist. Make sure it kind of oozes out. A little bit of tape just to hold it while we do the rest. Make sure it oozes out. A little bit of tape to hold it. Okay. Make sure it oozes out. Okay. Now for that aged look. Yeah, it's really starting to, you can see the grain in there, really starting to look kind of cool. Turn that off. So now essentially we'll just add a screw, and that again, that's just to help hold it on, because we're going to be hitting on this and it's really going to start bending the wood, deforming things, and I don't want this flying off later on. So we're going to go ahead and we will put a screw in there, and just to help hold it, one on each side. All right, I went ahead and pre-drilled a bunch of those holes and put a screw in them. Got our last one to do. Just go through the copper. We'll add our last screw. All right. So essentially, for beginning, that's got our three boppers. Let's see if I can't find something to hit. We'll see how well they work. So let's see how well these work. I should have an abrader. There we go. Now, actually, I'm going to change a different position. I'm going to get to a place where I can sit down. We changed position a little bit, so we've got our boppers here and our braiding stone. Braid a little bit more. All right. Right here and right here are two platforms. We're going to go ahead and try to knock those. That was good. That was good. Try to take a little bit off of here. Okay, well, there was some step fracturing. Probably something in the stone. There we go. A little bit of a hinge fracture right there, but we'll be able to get rid of that. what I'm doing is there's a flat edge here. I'm just slowly working it back this way, getting rid of that flat edge a little at a time, creating a platform. Removing a piece, create another platform, remove another piece. There we go. Now what we've done essentially, really quickly, we've made a primitive, very primitive axe head. Homo erectus, 50,000 years ago, roughly, was making tools just like this. Okay, this is probably going to be, we're getting to a point where this is getting too big, our 1-inch one. And we're going to need to go down to our 3/4 inch one. Now, obviously, Homo erectus didn't have copper, but essentially, the technology hasn't changed at all. You're still just taking a rock, grinding it on something, and then hitting it with a blunt object. create a functional tool primarily for the purpose of hunting. Or let's just say even just for survival purposes. It doesn't have to be hunting, it could be for skinning, processing. Some sort of meat. Now, here's a good point. This stuff is very, very sharp, and you're gonna get cut. Now, some of the old timers, people who've been doing it a while, they'll look at the cut and say, okay, how bad is it? Does it need a Band-Aid? How soon will it stop? And for me, that's not bad enough because it's going to dry up here really quickly and stop bleeding. But it does beg a question. If we find a point out in nature that has human DNA on it, is that proof of warfare? Or could it be the unique fingerprint of the artisan that made the point?